Good morning, Terry here at Rooster Farm. This morning I'm starting to prep my dishes for Thanksgiving. Normally we have around 23 people at our dinner table, and today there's going to be a lot less. Darn COVID is the reason for that. Anyways, it's going to be myself and my husband, my two sons, and sadly my daughter and her fiance who live in Vancouver. It's a ferry ride across from where we live. Have decided that they're going to social distance, which is the smart thing to do. And so they won't be here, and I'm going to miss them terribly, but hopefully next year we can all get together. My two sisters are having their own small family functions, which is understandable. My parents have been invited to my sister Shannon's place. She beat me to the punch this year, but I've got them for Christmas. And Marcus's sons, who also live in Vancouver, are social distancing, and I think they actually have to work. So it's not going to be easy for them to come over, but they'll come over after Thanksgiving, which is really going to be nice to look forward to. But because I can't do small, I have to have every single dish that I normally have, and it's always way too much food. My husband always gives me a hard time saying, "You cook for an army," and so, but that's fine. I'm still going to have all the dishes. We've decided to ask a few close friends that live here on the island, and so there's going to be a total of 7 of us at the dinner table. So I'm going to start making some of the dishes here. First one I'm starting is my Brussels sprouts recipe. I love Brussels sprouts. I can eat them cold out of the fridge after they've been cooked, but there's a few people that don't, like my dad, who says, "I'll have my token one Brussels sprout and then I'm not eating anymore." But this recipe is yummy. It's my maple roasted Brussels sprouts. And I'm gonna show you how to do that. We're gonna use our applewood smoked bacon that we make here on the farm. So I've rinsed my Brussels sprouts. I like fresh ones. Sometimes when they don't have fresh ones, I have to get frozen, but they're not my favorite. So I've rinsed them, and I'm just gonna cut off the little nasty bit on the bottom and clean up some of the brown leaves, and then I'm gonna put them into my baking dish. So just gonna cut the end off, get rid of all some of the brown leaves on the outside, and into my baking dish. And all these little bits don't go to waste. My chickens are gonna get those. So I've added my bacon to my Brussels sprouts. Recipe calls for 4 slices of bacon, 1/2-inch pieces. I think I added 5 slices of bacon. I think some of them are almost an inch long. Do what you like. This is how I like to do it. I'm gonna add the next ingredients. I'm adding a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 cup of olive oil, and it calls for 3 tablespoons of real maple syrup, 2, 3, that's usually what the recipe calls for. I like garlic, so I also add 2 cloves of minced garlic. And I'm sure you're gonna like the garlic in it too. Normally my daughter makes the Brussels sprouts, so we're gonna miss her recipe, and she loves garlic too. Yeah, look at that. We're just gonna give it a mix and get it all combined here. Oh, a token Brussels sprout on the floor. Shucks. That's okay. Heat your oven to 400 degrees, and it's gonna go in the oven for 45 minutes, and you're gonna stir it halfway through. Next, I'm going to be making a yam casserole. Here I have 4 pounds of yam, so it's about five of that size. We have yam casserole every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, but I'm usually not the person that's making it. So I'm going to wing it, Shannon. My sister Shannon is the one that normally brings it. So you can cook your yams in several different ways. You can put them in the oven at 375 until you can poke a fork into them and they're tender. You can cook them in the microwave, just poking a few holes in with a fork, or you can peel them, boil them, and mash them. So I decided to do the bake in the oven way. I'm not a big fan of the microwave, and I feel like it's a little bit more work to have to peel them and chop them, and then you're boiling them in water, and maybe all the goodness is going into the water. So this is what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to poke a few holes in here. I'm going to cover my baking dish with some tin foil, and I'm going to throw them in the oven. So I found this recipe from All Recipes, this yummy yam casserole. Seems fairly simple. I did notice that some of the ingredients listed, like this 2 tablespoons of butter, is different in the description. They want a 1/4 or 1/8 cup of melted butter, which I guess is similar, but it's not the same. Anyways, so I think it's similar to my sister's recipe. I hope it is, because I really like my sister Shannon's recipe. I'm gonna wing it, Shannon. Anyway, so to start, once your yams are cooked and cooled and you removed all the yams from the skin, you're gonna put it into a mixing bowl, and you're gonna add 2 eggs, 1 at a time, mixing really well after each addition. You're gonna add to that mixture a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. I've decided to use the measurement in the description, and I'm going to use 1/8 cup melted butter. A teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/8 teaspoon of allspice, and 1/8 teaspoon of nutmeg. And mix that really well till it says it's light and fluffy. And you're going to spread it into an ungreased casserole dish. And then you're going to top it with some whole pecans. Sprinkle a 1/3 cup of brown sugar and a 1/4 cup of melted butter. And you're going to bake it in a 375-degree oven for, what does it say here? 25 minutes until browned and bubbly. Yummy. The yams are cool enough to be able to take the skin off. Look how easy that comes off. Slides right off. Just gonna top it into my bowl. A piece of tin foil underneath me. I'm gonna give all that skins to to the chickens outside. So I'm just going to mash them a bit just to get them a little bit smaller before I use my mix master. I'm going to add my eggs now, one at a time. And then I'm going to use my mix master. All right, and then for the next ingredients, my eighth cup melted butter, quarter cup brown sugar, teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of cinnamon, and an eighth teaspoon of allspice, an eighth teaspoon of nutmeg. So I did have to scrape the sides a few times just to make sure I got everything all in there. I've been beating it for a few minutes here. It looks really good. So I'm just going to get my dish and transfer it to that. So here's my casserole dish. Hoping it's not too small. Pour. I think it's going to be just perfect. Nice and fluffy. Spread it all around. Gonna get every last little bit. We're just going to arrange the cans. Oh, landed in the right spot. And then I'm going to drizzle the butter over top. Quarter cup of butter. Not diet friendly, but it looks really good. It's all ready to go into the oven 375 degrees for 25 minutes. Yummy yams. Well, I'm now ready to stuff my turkey. So I like homemade stuffing. I don't like the box stuff. It's convenient, I suppose, but I still like to make my own. So all you're gonna need is a couple loaves of white bread. It doesn't have to be stale bread. You can just go and buy fresh bread. It won't matter for this recipe. So you need, I use 2 loaves. If you just have a small turkey and you don't want a lot of stuffing, then just half the recipe. So 2 loaves of white bread. You're gonna need 3 stalks of celery. You just need to cut them into fine chunks. Cut them finely. You're gonna need 1 medium onion, or if you don't have one medium onion, you just use half a large onion. And we're gonna need some spices. So we're gonna need a teaspoon of ground sage, a teaspoon of thyme flakes, or leaves, a teaspoon of poultry seasoning, 3/4 of a cup of chicken broth. And first of all, you're gonna cut your onions and your celery, and you're gonna fry them in some butter till they're just a little bit tender. Doesn't matter, you're gonna be putting it in the oven. And then you're gonna add all the ingredients, and I'll come back at that next step. Here I am cutting my celery into fine chunks. Anyways, yeah, just cut them in half, cut them lengthwise a few times, and just chop them in little small pieces. You don't want a great big hunk of celery when you're stuffing. Just cut these nice and thin as well. Add that to my saucepan. I've melted a little bit of butter in here to fry it in. Chop my bread. So my celery and onion is ready to put in with the bread. Here's my bread. I end up using not the full 2 loaves, I think about 1 1/2. I think it turned out to be about 30 slices of bread. And you're just gonna add your celery. Now I'm gonna sprinkle the spices over top. So it's your teaspoon of sage. Sometimes I just sprinkle half and then mix it and then dump the remainder. There's my thyme. And my poultry seasoning. And decided to add some apples. This is optional. You don't have to add apples if you want. I just picked a few off our tree. So I'm adding, I think, 2 apples that you peeled and sliced into small pieces. Just adding my apple. It smells so good. And I'm just gonna add my broth, half of it anyways. I'm not too sure how much you need. Just add half of it. Mix it up. Been better to use a bigger bowl because this is falling all over the sides, but that's okay. And just sprinkle the remainder of your herbs once you've mixed it in a bit. Remainder of your broth. I love the smell of stuffing. Looks really good. So I use cheesecloth to stuff my turkey. Depending on how big your turkey will depend on how much stuffing you want to put into your cheesecloth. So I just usually cut a large square of cheesecloth, lay it on the counter, and put my stuffing in it, how much I think I'll need or how much will fit inside the bird. And then I just bring up the corners and tie it in a knot so you can just shove the whole thing into the bird. You can do either end, and with the leftover stuff, I normally will just put into a casserole dish and heat it that way, and then when I'm carving the turkey, we'll take the stuffing out and I'll pour it into the stuffing that didn't get to go inside the bird, and just so all the flavors will be there. So I've peeled and cut all my potatoes, and my turnip is all ready to be cooked. I don't know, what do you think? 10 pounds of potatoes is too much for 7 people? So I'm about to put my turkey into the pot. I have one of these turkey roasting racks that I'm going to put in the bottom of my roasting pan, first of all. And I have a turkey that's I think 7 kilograms, so approximately 15 pounds. So I'm just going to rinse it off in the sink, and then I'm going to be back at the next step. So it's a nice looking turkey. I'm just going to take out the giblets, the neck, and put it in a pot. Some stuff underneath I'm trying to check. Oh, there they are. A little bag. Boil those or simmer those in a little bit of water, and use the broth for my gravy. Then I give it a little bit of a rinse inside. It's going to seem like a breeze. I normally have a 25-pound turkey, and this is like almost half the size, so it's going to cook up, and it probably, I think when I cook my 25-pound turkey, I think it takes about 6 hours to cook. And I think this has a nice little thing on the outside that tells you how long it's going to take to cook, but I already had it figured out, probably between like 3.5 and 4 hours. So I've got my little square of cheesecloth, and I'm adding how much stuffing I think will fit in there. Just tie the corners up. And then tie them all together. It will squish down a lot. And get my bird here at the sink. It's all drained. And I'm going to do my best to try and get my stuffing in the bird. Sometimes this is not easy. Grab it up. There we go. One side. Sometimes I put some in the end. I don't think I'm gonna do that this time, but you can stuff the other end as well. Then you're gonna flip your wings so they look like that. Flip the other side. Like that. Good. Lift the bird in there. Shove the legs, the wings down in there. Good. Now I use lots of butter, and I just kind of put it all on the outside. Butter's a little hard. And I like to just smear it all over the bird. Baste while it's cooking. And then I'm also going to use some of our bacon, our applewood smoked bacon, and I just put that across as well. Just lay it all across. Gonna sprinkle it with some salt and pepper. Looks good. Put this up. So my turkey is all ready to go in the oven. I'm not going to be putting it in till probably 12:30, 1 o'clock, because it's only going to take about 3.5 to 4 hours. You're going to set your oven for 400 degrees. You're going to cover your turkey either with the lid, if the lid fits, or tin foil. You're going to put it in the 400-degree oven for 30 minutes. Then you're going to turn the oven temperature down to 325 and cook it for the remaining time, basting it every 30 minutes until the temperature gauge says 165 degrees Fahrenheit. And then your turkey will be good to eat. Turnip is all ready. I'm just going to drain it in the sink. little bit and then taste it. See if you need to add any more. Salt and pepper. Just add all your sugar and your salt and pepper to taste. I added probably maybe just under 1/8 cup of sugar. Good, it's all done. And I'm just gonna put it into a casserole dish.